Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this latest edition of Tales from Outer Space, where I take stories from across the internet and read them for your entertainment. I have a new type of content up on the second channel, and I would be truly honored if you'd head over there and give it a try. I know it's not going to be everybody's cup of tea, but it is something new, and it's a new direction that we're trying, while resting the voice a bit. The link to it will be in the pinned comment. Anyways, on to the story. Rise and Shine by Majestic Teach 6677. I heard our new human crew member arrived last night, Safety Overseer Hevar said, as the raised tentacle to indicate curiosity. What are they like? They seemed quite pleasant, but I'll admit that we didn't spend much time speaking, Personal Officer Zalat replied. It was late, and they were both tired and anxious to get settled into their quarters. What sort of beings are humans? Hevar asked. I've heard of them, but this is the first time I'll be working with one. I'm not too familiar with humans myself, but this individual came with excellent references from ships with multi-species crews. From a work standpoint, I'm sure they'll fit in, Zealot answered, with a confident shift of an eye stalk. Physically, they are bipedal beings with appendages that'll not flex backwards like your tentacles can. They are far more like insectoids with rigid structure, but that structure is internal rather than the outer carapace. Their exterior is soft skin, with musculature underneath attached to their bones. Internal structure with fleshy exterior, not too abnormal, Hevar commented as he wrapped a tentacle around his mug of nutrient broth. Any other key physical attributes? This human is female and prefers to be called Maddie. As a species, humans wear clothing for both modesty and temperature regulation, Zanet explained. Humans are also dimorphic, and one of the distinguishing features of females is that they have a pair of large lumps on their chest. However, I understand that it is quite rude in human society to comment on or look at those lumps. That's probably the most important thing we'll need to communicate to the crew. Interesting, and nothing that seems too far out of the ordinary, all things considered, Hevar said with a satisfied flick of a tentacle. When will I get a chance to meet them? She'll be attending ship orientation the first shift with all the other new crew, Zanet said, while taking a quick moment to double-check and confirm information on his tablet. I understand humans prefer to consume a meal designated breakfast before beginning work, so we'll likely see her in the galley soon. As if on cue, the door to the mess hall opened, and Maddie was standing there. At 1.75 meters tall, she would be at the upper height of the crew, but not hugely out of proportion. She wore dark blue work coveralls, which seemed to zip up the front. Her 2 feet were covered in heavy black work boots, with no coverings on her hands or head. Shoulder-length brown hair was tied back into a ponytail. However, that wasn't what stood out. The expression on her face was almost predatory, the way she gazed into the room with her 2 eyes. Zada quickly checked his translation matrix for body language and was shocked to find the facial expression matched that of anger or significant irritation. Zalet and Hevar looked at each other, both finding her unpleasant visage completely unexpected. Maddie stalked across the room towards the liquid dispensers. She didn't walk calmly, the pace was clearly accelerated, and her gaze focused intensely on the dispensers. She refused to stop walking or look around the room at all. She just went for the beverage station in an apparent huff. Reaching the beverage station, she placed a bag on the counter and pulled 2 items out. First was a sealed canister of some kind. Second was a glass cylinder with the top Maddie quickly yanked off and set it aside on the counter. She then opened the sealed canister and dumped some sort of grainy brown substance into the glass cylinder, which they now noticed had a large black handle attached. Is that the human? Hevar asked quietly. Yes, Zadet responded in a low voice, but she definitely wasn't like that last night. Where's the fucking hot water? Maddie grumbled loud enough they could hear her. Their eye stalks widened in shock at the language and attitude. Oh, there it is, she continued, as she found the universal water dispenser and started to make selections on the control screen. No, you stupid piece of shit, not warm, hot. I know it's a fucking burn hazard. Quit your bullshit and give me nearly boiling water. Maddie, pressing the controls, quickly turned into aggressive jabbing as the rant intensified. Yes, I'm sure. Hot, nearly boiling, for fuck's sakes. She snarled at the water dispenser. Stop arguing with me and give me my damn hot water. Why do you have safety nanobots built into these fucking things? We're supposed to be all adults here. She was satisfied only after the dispenser started pouring hot water into the glass cylinder with the oversized handle. The smell began to fill the mess hall, strong, slightly acrid, but by no means unpleasant, just new, different, and very distinct. With the addition of the hot water, the liquid in the glass cylinder turned a watery dark brown. Once full, Maddie grabbed the lid and slapped it on top of the cylinder. For some reason, the lid had a long pole sticking up with a knob on the top. She then stood there and stared at the glass cylinder, and the lid in sight, seemingly oblivious to everyone and everything around her. "Did she pass the mandatory psychological examinations?" Hebar whispered to Zealot. She ranked highly in independence and problem-solving, as well as significantly above average on potential to cooperate with multiple species, Zealot said with a swirl of an eye stalk to indicate confusion. Maddie just stood there staring at the cylinder for 3 full-time units, a sour expression on her face the entire time. Suddenly, she flashed her right hand out of the palm down above the device, causing both Zealot and Hebar to flick their eye stalks back as they were startled by the unanticipated movement. Maddie then gently pushed down slowly on the knob until the long bar disappeared into the contraption and the knob rested on the lid. Maddie made a grab to one of the universal mugs. However, the effort was clearly uncoordinated as she proceeded to knock a few over. Muttering something angrily under her breath, Maddie took a moment to slowly and carefully fix the mess that she had accidentally created. However, it took multiple tries, and she knocked over an additional mug in the process. There was a clear lack of coordination between her visual receptors and her manipulators. Rather than straighten things any further, she snatched the last mug she knocked over and decanted the contents of the glass contraption into it. It became clear to Hebar and Zealot that the glass cylinder was some sort of brewing device, and the long metal bar was connected to a plunger and filter to separate the organic substance from the liquid once steeping was done. Just an interesting variation on making tea or broth, although it was unclear why Maddie had her own special device. "Do you think this steeping device has a cultural significance?" Hebar wondered aloud. "I would assume so," Zealot responded in a low voice. "All ships carry a variety of devices to make teas or broth, and any number of them would likely perform as well as that glass apparatus." Hebar brought up his data slate and had to perform an image search on the device. "Galnet says the device is a French press," he reported to Zealot. "The descriptor French seems to refer to a category of cuisine. Other related results include French cooking and popular dish known as French fries. Perhaps this means her preferred native food are French?" Zealot gave a non-committal shrug with his tentacles, still baffled by the human's behavior and unpleasant attitude. The dark liquid decanted into the mug. Maddie placed the steeping device in a cleaning area, along with her bag and sealed container. She then picked up the mug and proceeded purposefully to the buffet. With her left hand, she pulled a small bioscanner out of her pocket and waved it quickly at the food items. When the device beeped and a green light appeared, she put the device away and grabbed the items indicated as safe. A baked scorpion beetle grub that looked very much like a traditional pastry, just dark purple in colour. She walked away from the serving line with the beetle grub in one hand and unknown dark liquid in the other. Halfway towards the empty seating section, she brought the beetle grub to her mouth and took a bite. A small dribble of the grub's sickly green innards went down her chin. She winced, wiped away the drip on her chin with a sleeve, and then looked at the food item with the Zealot's translation matrix identified as pure disgust. Surprisingly, Maddie did not return the offensive food item. The human quickly chewed and swallowed. Next, she took a sip of dark beverage, swished it around her mouth, swallowed, then proceeded to an empty table. Upon sitting down, she quickly wolfed down the beetle grub before taking a large drink of the dark beverage. Instead of swallowing, she took a moment to swish the drink around her mouth before leaning back and gargling the liquid. She then took a second drink, once again swishing the beverage around in her mouth. Seemingly satisfied, she swallowed, but quickly reverted to what the translation labeled as a foul mood. "Is that standard human behavior?" Heber asked. "No idea," Zealot responded quickly. "I hope not." Over the next 15 time units, Maddie slowly sipped on her beverage, and her mood began to shift. Zealot's interpreter system informed him that her mood shifted from foul to calm and satisfied. Of particular note, the upturned corners of her mouth were identified as a small smile that indicated human happiness. Suddenly, Maddie stood up and strode purposely across the room to the cleaning section. Her back was straight, and her mouth continued to display the smile indicating contentment. Her eyes were bright and lively as she crossed the room, and upon arrival at the cleaning section, her movements were quick and purposeful while she cleaned out her steeping device. While Maddie finished cleaning her glass steeping device, another crew member had been loading their tray with food. When they turned, the tray clipped the sauce bottle and knocked it off the condiments table. With an unnatural speed and grace, Maddie leaned over, and her hand shot out to snatch the falling bottle. The deft and smooth motion continued as she placed the sauce bottle on the table and slid it with a gentle precision back to place with the other condiments. "Thank you for preventing what would have been a very sticky disaster," the crew member said to Maddie as they bobbed their antennae in appreciation. I'm Gorchal, the assistant navigator. And you are? I'm Maddie, your new human crew member, the woman responded cheerfully. I'm a crane and a heavy equipment operator. It's a pleasure to meet you. I have heard of your species, but never met one, the insectoid responded. Is it true that you are mostly made up of water? It does not appear so. Tact is not one of the specialties of the jackpot people, yet the human seemed to shrug off the bluntness with an amused smile. Then Maddie proceeded to not only answer the question, but engage Chorko in an extended friendly conversation. The entire time she was smiling, and her eyes shined brightly in a way that the translation matrix interpreted as happy and engaged. Whatever is in that liquid seems to be an important mood regulator. Find out what is in there, and be sure the quartermaster has ordered sufficient quantities. We can't have our humans' performance falter due to an unknown chemical imbalance, Zalat said to Hebar. He paused for a moment in thought before continuing. And, to be safe, check in with the medical team. We should be sure that it isn't an unfortunate situation where our human came aboard with an undisclosed substance abuse problem. End of story. I'd greatly like to thank our Tier 5 channel members, Caspar Arnholtz, John Creighton, Manatharia, 050, Dragzoon WRE, and Elijah Silvercross. Thank you very much.